Hello, I just wanted to jump on to have a quick conversation with you about a topic that seems to be doing the rounds and has been doing the rounds for quite a long time. The future of stained glass. Obviously, stained glass is on the endangered list, the Heritage Crafts endangered list here in the UK, and we are having lots of conversations about the future of stained glass. So I thought it would be helpful to repost a YouTube video that I made back in 2021 where I gave a talk to the British Society of Master Glass Painters about the future of stained glass. And I give examples of some fantastic stained glass creatives who are using stained glass in surprising, interesting, and unusual ways. And that's how I see stained glass surviving and thriving in the 21st century. So leave your comments below the video on your reaction to it and how you think we as fellow creatives can take stained glass forward and reach a greater audience and encourage a greater audience to take up making and designing stained glass windows and realizing their own art creations in glass. That's what we really want to try and do, is inspire fellow creatives to use stained glass in interesting and exciting ways. And by the way, if you like the content in this channel, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it really does help us get this information out to as many people as possible. See you soon. I make traditional stained glass windows. I have a studio up in Leicestershire and I design and make new stained glass windows. Most of us here are familiar with traditional stained glass. It's been made the same way for centuries. When the Venerable Bede sent a delegation over to Normandy in, what was it, 645 AD to bring these mysterious glaziers who worked with coloured glass over to mainland Britain, that started a whole process of our love affair with stained glass. It sort of was perfected as a medium in the 1200s and 1300s, and we use those same techniques today. When we say stained glass, what do most people think of them? So most people at the moment think of stained glass like this: traditional stained glass that they've seen 100 times before in churches and in cathedrals. They may have an academic interest. They may be interested in medieval glass. This is a project I'm working on just now at the Guildhall in Coventry, which is 15th century glass. Or you may have seen more contemporary work. The Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, I was there a couple of years ago. Absolutely mind-blowing. So most people have an appreciation of glass, but that stained glass is, to a very large extent, traditional. So, traditional stained glass, as we all know it, we draw the cartoon out full size and we then cut our glass individually as individual pieces. It's the way it's been made for centuries. It's labor intensive, it's slow, but it's wonderful. It's great to kind of get involved with kind of the whole process and just hunker down to something that's going to last 2 or 3 months. We use traditional brushes. We all tend to use traditional brushes and traditional paints, mixed in the same way that the medieval craftsmen used the traditional paints. We paint in the same way that was painted in the 12th and 13th century, using the same types of hand tools. It was perfected in the 1200s and the 1300s. It was so fit for purpose and so well conceived that we haven't really been able to improve on it, and it lasts for millennia. So it is a wonderful medium to be involved with, and it's you know, I still love making traditional stained glass windows. And for certain types of buildings, traditional stained glass is absolutely perfect. For ecclesiastical buildings, grade 1 and grade 2 listed buildings, stone buildings, even public buildings up to about the late 1960s, 1970s. I think Coventry Cathedral in 1962 was the last really great hurrah for contemporary, what we were calling 20th century contemporary stained glass, and it's never really been surpassed since then. And its use in modern buildings has diminished over a period of time. So I make traditional stained glass windows. I still make a lot of traditional stained glass windows. I cut the glass by hand, I paint it, I stain it, and I continue to make traditional stained glass. I love it. I think there's a future for it, but it's a very specific type of future. I think it works, as I say, in very particular types of buildings. If you were to try and put this type of traditional stained glass in a modern office building or a modern office complex, and I'm sure Andrew will talk more about this in the afternoon session, it doesn't really work. I also use the traditional techniques with conservation. So there's a lot of sort of hand painting of Victorian glass and medieval glass using those traditional techniques. So there's a future for the traditional techniques in that. But it is limited. And I think the thing that I want to try and get across is that while we're celebrating the traditional crafts, stained glass is changing. Stained glass is evolving from the traditional techniques that were started centuries ago to something that is fit for the 21st century. So that's really what I want to explore with you today. My own personal journey, I'm a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. And my art is a work in progress. And I'm moving forward and just trying to push at the envelope of what constitutes stained glass, using the skills that I've learned with traditional stained glass making, how you can modulate light, how you can control light. Basically, stained glass is a membrane, and it's the interface between the inside of a building and the outside of a building. And that membrane is what you control. It's how you allow light to enter the building, how you can texturize that light, how you can color that light, how you can modulate it and control it. And you can use all those traditional skills with lots of different modern techniques. So experimentation and innovation, and for the next generation, those young glass artists, or if you're just coming into the medium as a creative, the great privilege of being young is that you get to invent the future. You get to say what stained glass is going to look like in 20 years' time. You get to say what stained glass is going to look like in 30 years' time, not me. So that is your privilege, and it's something to be excited about. Stained glass is a very malleable, plastic material. You can go from the microscopic, from jewelry, to the massive, to the whole wall facade of a shopping center. So, on my journey, I first decided to sort of work with screen printing. Screen printing is now well established, but back in the late 80s, early 90s, it really wasn't being used to the same extent. And I was curious and interested to see how I could make screen printing work for me. So this was the first project that I worked on, St Helena's Church in Waltham-on-the-Wolds. I was approached to design a traditional stained glass window on the theme of hunting, shooting and fishing. So I'd never done really screen printing before, so I just approached a local screen printing company and I said, look, can we try playing around with screen printing? So we basically mixed up the painting medium, the normal traditional painting medium, with a screen printing medium. In that case, I think it was pine oil, but there are other mediums you can use. So I really enjoyed that project, and so I decided to sort of continue along the idea of working with screen printing. So this was the next project. In 1999, it was a national competition to design an artwork for a theatre. So I put forward this design, it was accepted, and it's on the theme of performance. So there's a number of sort of images in the design. Some of them are hand painted, and some of them are screen printed. So the dancers, for example, are hand painted on glass and fired in the kiln in the normal way. But then you've got other elements like the musical instruments. They are screen printed on, and there's a dictionary definition of the word performance. I was asked to design this creation here. So basically, the figure of Christ is almost life-size, so you can get the scale of it. It's really quite a big window. So this, again, was using screen-printed effects and hand-painting effects with a traditional lead matrix. And it took about 6 months or so to make it, and it was made in my studio. And I really enjoyed that process. Screen printing also works in a three-dimensional context. So it's not just for glazing, it's not just for fenestration. Screen printing works as an intervention into a building. So you can create balustrades, you can create screens, you can create wall hanging features, you can create things that hang on cables. It's very flexible. Airbrushing was something that I wanted to play around with as well. So the first project that I worked with airbrushing was this one. This was a new build Catholic church in Woking, St Dunstan's Church. I created these designs here, which were created mostly in Photoshop. And I decided to go to Germany, to Derek's studios. So basically, this is Rami, who's one of the head guys at Derek's studio, a tremendous artist himself. He would work with me to create lots of sample panels. So we did lots of sort of suggestions where he would get dressed up like this in a big booth and spray paint the designs onto great big pieces of glass. Very skillful, because he's basically interpreting a design on paper, and he's interpreting that on a full scale. Very talented glass artists working to realize your designs using airbrushing techniques. So this is the John Rylands University Library in Manchester, and I put forward this idea of a totem pole, call it a totem, which is basically a glass sculpture. Basically, I created this artwork in conjunction with a studio called T4 Design. Now, they're based up in Nottinghamshire in Manfield, and we devised a technique really from scratch with this one, where we computer printed some designs onto acetate. And this was the start of, again, another series of designs, series of commissions using computer printing, because computer printing is fantastic. It's a really great way of getting photorealistic images into glass. CNC cutting, another technique that you should really get involved with. This was for a project for a hospital. It's a three-dimensional poem, so it's basically a poem written on the wall on the theme of a walk down the River Leith. So these are actually cut out of acrylic, and it's the idea of the flora and fauna that you can see down the River Leith. So this is a project where I'm combining CNC printing with three-dimensional sculptural work. So this was for a Roman Catholic church, where we're creating a sculpture hanging from the ceiling using printed technology, but also creating it as a sort of freestanding sculpture. So this is all of the techniques used together for a new church in East Grinstead, Holy Trinity Church. So again, this is bringing all of these new techniques that I'd been playing with all together into one commission. Glass bonding. Applique glass has been used for years. It came into disrepute because the early epoxy resins started to delaminate, but the glues that are used nowadays are far better. So this was a glass bonded project for a private residence. Basically, it's a stately home, and the owners own a Namibian wildlife park. So they wanted the design to represent all the flora and fauna of Namibia. So I went to Peter's studio, another great glass studio in Paderborn in Germany, and they realized the design for me. So it's all hand painted. I did some of the hand painted work myself, but the team of glaziers there did all the acid etching, and then it was bonded onto a back piece of glass, and that's the result. And it's a very lightweight effect, so you get all of the joy of antique glass, you get all of the kind of textures, etc. of antique glass, but you don't have the lead lines. So I'll just quickly through some artists who are working with these processes. Guy Kemper, I recently interviewed Guy Kemper from our YouTube channel, great artist doing a lot of interesting work using bonded glass and fused glass, and he does airport terminals and he does shopping centers. That's Ground Zero in New York. He does mosaic work as well, and he's really pushing at how to use those techniques in the public realm. I really like his work. He also does three-dimensional work as well. Catherine Jones, UK-based artist, doing some really exciting work, works a lot with Proto Studios, and uses Photoshop and other image manipulation software to create, using photographs to create photo montages, sometimes with an abstract background, still sometimes using lead work as well. Really like Catherine's work. Kirsty Brooks, Kirsty's here today. Kirsty's work, she does a lot of work with Proto Studios. Her work is characterized often by a very limited color palette. She does use a lot of color from time to time, but often it's monochrome, and these are lovely large-scale interventions into public spaces. I love this one, this sort of reflected water, playing with that idea. I think it's a great idea. And finally, Kate Maestri. Kate Maestri again works with Proto Studios and others. She has a very interesting use and a lovely use of color, restricted color palettes in these lovely interventions into contemporary buildings. I'm sure Andrew Moore will talk more about Kate Maestri's work later on today, but I love her use of glass and how she's pushing at the boundaries of what glass can be, and the wonderful Graham Jones as well. There's a big body of work with Graham Jones. We're just scratching the surface. This is Hong Kong, a lovely project. I'm sure Andrew will talk a bit more about that. So essentially, experiment and innovate, push at the boundaries with your own practice. We're all a work in progress, we're all moving forward, we don't know quite where we're going, that's good. As David Bowie said, if you're feeling slightly uncomfortable and slightly out of your depth, you're probably in about the right place. And also use social media. Whether you like social media or whether you don't like social media, it's there to be used. And go onto Instagram, look at the muralists, look at the graffiti artists, look at the painters, look at all of the other people, all the other creatives out there, because that's where the life is and that's where the future is. So enjoy your creativity.